This year, mobile phone manufacturers seem to be going head-to-head with the Pro Max concept. As the final Chinese flagship model to debut in the market, it has brought us many surprises that far exceed our expectations. Although this generation is long overdue, come on everyone, let's focus our gaze right here. This is the Huawei Mate 80 Pro Max. In terms of appearance, the changes to the Huawei Mate 80 Pro Max are significant. First, the camera module has returned to the classic star ring design, and the dual ring design on the entire back cover looks even more high-tech. Another relatively obvious change is the frame, which has switched from curved to straight-edged. Paired with the all-metal Xuanwu architecture and the second-generation Kunlun glass, the overall structural strength of the device has been significantly improved. The last time we saw the glory of an all-metal unibody phone was the iPhone 7 series. After that, the era of glass back covers began due to wireless charging. Do you think the Mate 80 Pro Max will revive the glory of the all-metal body? Additionally, this metal back cover debuts the metallic glow microtexture process. Simply put, the back cover features engraved detailed textures, making it feel quite refined to the touch. Turning to the front screen, to match the straight-edged frame, this Mate 80 Pro Max uses a 2.5D dual-layer OLED screen, officially dubbed the ultra-thin transparent display. This screen not only has higher brightness, but also lower power consumption and a longer lifespan. In our actual tests, the full-screen manual maximum brightness stabilizes at 1053 nits, while the full-screen peak excitation brightness can reach 1841 nits. The performance of this dual-layer OLED screen is very robust. Here is a detailed spec sheet for everyone. You can pause to screenshot or save. It is worth mentioning that despite the recent sky-high rise in memory prices, the Huawei Mate 80 Pro Max launch price is actually $100 lower than the previous generation for the same storage configuration. Next up is the highlight of this video, the Kirin 9030 Pro. I'm sure everyone is paying close attention and anticipating the performance of this new Kirin chip. The Kirin 9030 Pro features a 1+4+4 9-core design. Compared to the previous generation Kirin 9020, it has one extra big core. In addition to the core count, the frequencies have also increased. The super large core frequency increased by 0.25 GHz to a maximum of 2.75 GHz. The big core frequency increased by 0.12 GHz to 2.27 GHz. The small cores also saw a 0.22 GHz increase, peaking at 1.72 GHz. In the same time, both the super large and big cores support hyperthreading. On the GPU side, it has been upgraded to the newest Maloon 935. So let's see how the Kirin 9030 Pro performs in actual gaming tests. First, Honor of Kings in high-definition 120 FPS mode. The Huawei Mate 80 Pro Max averaged 119.9 FPS. The average power consumption was 2.4 watts, and the maximum temperature was 33.7 degrees Celsius. Compared to the Mate 70 Pro Plus, the power consumption performance is better, and the energy efficiency ratio has slightly improved. Then there's our old friend Genshin Impact. Since Genshin has already adapted to the Harmony OS system, let's look at the performance of the 9030 Pro under the native Genshin highest graphics settings in a medium load scenario. Both phones can run close to full frames, averaging 59.9 FPS. The Mate 80 Pro Max's average power consumption was only 3.2 watts, and the maximum temperature was quite cool at only 37 degrees Celsius. Compared to the Mate 70 Pro Plus with the Kirin 9020, both the average power consumption and maximum temperature are lower. At this point, we can confirm that the energy efficiency ratio of the Kirin 9030 Pro under low to medium loads has improved. With the basic SoC part covered, let's look at the advanced imaging section. From RYB to variable aperture, from XMage to primary color system, Mate's imaging might not be the most ferocious in terms of sheer hardware, but it's definitely the most capable. The Mate 80 Pro Max is no exception. First, let's review the hardware upgrades. The main camera specs don't look like much of an improvement. It's still a 50 megapixel 1/1.28 inch RYYB sensor. However, the information available is limited. We guess this main sensor is likely from SmartSense rather than OmniVision used in the previous generation. This is evident from the flagship sensor of the Pora 80 Ultra. Huawei's announcement of a massive dynamic range improvement also hints at this. This implies Huawei has more technical control and discourse power in the design and application of high-end CMOS sensors. The main upgrade for the Mate 80 Pro Max is in the telephoto. Although dual telephoto phones are common to us now, this specific focal length combination is rare. The 4x lens is a native equivalent 90mm focal length. The 50 megapixel RYYB sensor compared to the previous generation seems to be an upgrade, though unfortunately we don't know the specific model or size yet. The aperture is f3 2.1 and the closest focusing distance is 5 centimeters. Meanwhile, the 6.2x periscope lens with a native equivalent focal length of 140mm focuses on long-range zoom. It is also a 50 megapixel RYYB sensor supporting OIS, but it doesn't stand side by side with other lenses. To engage it, you have to click 4x again or zoom directly past 10x. Its existence changes the phone's optical quality to a new level. Those familiar with photography know that 28 to 200mm zoom lenses are called universal lenses. Let's see how effective it actually is through real shooting. In daytime samples, the new Mate's abilities are hard to distinguish from the top tier. It's strictly T0, tier 0 level. Looking closely at the differences, the Mate 80 Pro Max's colors are slightly more vivid and the contrast is slightly higher. This makes it gain the upper hand in terms of style with minimal hardware difference, thanks to the more pleasing aesthetic. The power of the second generation Hongfeng system restores the true colors very well. In some samples, the Mate 70 Pro Plus leans slightly red compared to the actual visual perception. The problem of engaging the ultra
ultra-wide angle is more obvious here. The Mate 80 Pro Max's ultra-wide is truly wide. What really impressed me about the Mate 80 Pro Max is its multi-camera color consistency. Let's look at this set of samples. At sunset, when white balance is most prone to overturning, the Mate 80 Pro Max's lenses all replicate the color tones visible to the naked eye almost perfectly. In scenes with high contrast, the SART between different brightness levels are undoubtedly more precise, and thanks to hardware upgrades, highlight and shadow details are preserved. Huawei's operation here is a successful case of perfectly utilizing dynamic range. As for the long telephoto, well, there's not much suspense. The single 4x telephoto of the Mate 70 Pro Plus puts up a fight at native focal lengths, but once you switch past 10x, it's purely taking a beating. Regardless of resolving power or algorithmic processing, the Mate 80 Pro Max's advantage at the long telephoto end is something you can feel at a glance. Fans of long telephoto photography are in for a treat. When it comes to night scenes, the conclusion is basically applicable. The colors of the second generation Hongfeng system are steady. Light restoration and dark detail retention are superior to the Mate 70 Pro Plus, especially with the long telephoto. However, currently, the Mate 80 Pro Max doesn't seem to be fully optimized, and occasionally there are issues with overly aggressive processing and obvious algorithm traces. Also, regarding Huawei's night imaging style, night scenes tend to be brighter than actual perception. Of course, if you don't like this brightness tendency, you can simply tap and focus on the highlights in the frame to meter or just lower the exposure. In the top right corner of the actual machine, can you see that 5A logo? It is Huawei's brand new demonstration of mobile communication. The communication big brother, having been dominant for so long, has enhanced signal capabilities. We are very curious about its network speed performance. We conducted multi-round speed tests in 3 common scenarios. On average, the Mate 80 Pro Max data is stronger, including various outdoor network-free communications. This is Huawei's exclusive skill, from satellite communication and satellite weather queries up top down to 2.4G network-free communication within 7 kilometers, plus 700 MHz emergency communication. Even using the flash to tap out Morse code for help, the sense of security and network-free scenarios is maxed out. Based on the time we've had it in our hands, we can see that Huawei's understanding of the Pro Max isn't about following the trend, but about continuing to go big, go strong at its own pace. Compared to the Mate 70 Pro Plus, which had similar positioning in the last generation, the Mate 80 Pro Max is $100 cheaper for the same memory version. At this moment, its competitiveness has jumped out of the dimension of price to performance ratio. Alright, that's all the content for our full review of the Huawei Mate 80 Pro Max. See you next time. Bye-bye.